Our next speaker, Professor Lim, is the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs in this university and Professor of Law. He will be speaking about the content of Article 25 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and on the UN Human Rights Committee's general comment on that article.
I'm standing up so I don't flake out. It's my third talk in 3 days, and I just got off the plane after midnight last night, and I'm still living out of a suitcase. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you to Simon Yap, my colleague here at Hong Kong University, and the director of ICCPR, for asking me to speak to you today. It's not something I can refuse. These are two people I can't refuse. The last time we met, Gladys and I think Margaret is here as well, I was sitting where you were sitting where I am. I remember I teased you and how sporting you were as a panelist, so this is payback time. I'm also grateful to you that the event could be held here on the campus, because I've received unsolicited correspondence since you advertised this event. Please let me say here that I'm speaking here on the campus purely as a law professor. If you have any specific questions, I will be happy to answer them. While I may address some of the points raised by people who've written to me, I have not replied to any of these emails. I assume that some people are in the audience. My intention is to address Article 25 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Human Rights Committee's general comment number 25. However, you are free to ask me anything you like after the talk, and regardless of whether I know something about it, I will try and come up with some kind of response. Article 25 is a technical provision, and the general comment number 25 is something I view in a very technical way. I am very honored to speak after Bertrand Ramcharan. I used to get very excited in my younger days as a young staffer in Geneva when Bertrand Ramcharan used to sit next to my usual lunch table, and he used to come in with these massive delegations. Of course, I didn't realize that I was sitting, my usual table must have been next to his regular table in the Palais. And he was very much a legend to us, he still is. Unlike him, I don't know any big things. I'm no hedgehog. I know about little things, many little things, and I would like to talk about very little things today. And one of the little things is Article 25, which is very technical, very boring when you read it. It doesn't inspire you in the same way that Bertrand's speech would inspire you. It simply says that the right, every citizen shall have the right and the opportunity, without any of the distinctions mentioned in a previous provision, without unreasonable restrictions, to take part in the conduct of public affairs directly or through freely chosen representatives. And that's 25A. I see it as a provision that stands alone. You have a right to take part directly or indirectly through freely chosen representatives in the conduct of public affairs. And then there is another provision which sometimes is said here in Hong Kong to be the provision in relation to which a Hong Kong reservation applies. You see what I'm trying to get at now. I'm trying to isolate the reservation, perhaps successfully, perhaps unsuccessfully. And that second subparagraph, paragraph B, has to do not with the right to take part in the conduct of public affairs directly or indirectly through freely chosen representatives, but the right to vote. The right to vote, the right to be elected at genuine, periodic elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage. You can see now why it is sometimes said that the reservation applies to paragraph B, because it has the phrase universal and equal suffrage. And it's not often said that the reservation applies to paragraph A. I will come back to all of that. The point is that Article 25, paragraph A, is a very general provision. It guarantees the right for all citizens to be governed under a democracy, and in that democracy, the government is to be accountable. Whereas further subparagraphs B and C deal with very specific things, with the right to vote and to be elected, and with the right of access to public office. This last, I will not say much about it today. Now, when Gladys asked me to speak today, she asked me to speak not only about Article 25, she asked me to talk about a strange document, strange from the point of view of a layperson, something called General Comment number 25, of the Human Rights Committee. The Human Rights Committee, many of you will know, was established under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights to engage in the monitoring and surveillance of the compliance record of the individual states' parties. And within the ICCPR, there is conferred, I think in Article 40 itself, in the ICCPR, the power on the Human Rights Committee to issue general comments. And it has, the Human Rights Committee has taken up this power and employed it in a variety of ways. It has issued guidelines, for example, on how reporting is to be conducted. And I think that was General Comment number 1, General Comment number 2, and General Comment number 30. But it has also issued general comments on what the individual substantive rights in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights mean. And in relation to Article 25, the Human Rights Committee issued General Comment 25 on the 12th of July, 1996. It's not a huge document, but I won't go through every provision. What I have done is to isolate some of the provisions which may be of greater concern to us here in Hong Kong. If we were to take GC 25 into consideration, the first thing we would have to understand is our own view about its true legal status. You will find all kinds of views expressed about the legal status of general comments. The most expensive view, I take it, has to do with the breadth of a general comment. Unlike a criticism of Hong Kong, for example, in relation to a Hong Kong report to the Human Rights Committee, a general comment has a very broad scope. It has great breadth. It universalizes particular recommendations, particular criticisms made in relation to individual state reports. It may even receive the broad sanction of domestic courts across the world. And when courts start to cite instruments like this general comment, people say we can use the general comment to address even non-parties to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. You can also sense where I'm going with this. Because if the general comment reflects a general rule of international law, then it may be that any treaty reservation on the part of Hong Kong or anybody else in relation to a specific treaty rule in the ICCPR might not work. I will come back to that as well. Such views are all relevant in the Hong Kong context. Essentially, General Comment number 25 adopts a rights-based conception of democracy. So if we take a look at paragraph 1 of that General Comment, it says that Article 25, which is the provision in the ICCPR that we're talking about today, lies at the core of democratic government and on the consent of the people. Paragraph 5 is a complementary paragraph. It says that the allocation of power and the means by which individual citizens exercise the right to participate in the conduct of public affairs should be established by the Constitution and other laws. If we think about it, if you were to say that Article 25 lies at the core of democratic government based on the consent of the people, it means, and this is what several commentators have said, it means any democratic government based on popular consent will do. It does not matter whether you wish to adopt a Westminster system, a presidential system, or any other system. However, there is another paragraph in General Comment number 25 which I think is related to paragraphs 1 and 5, and that is paragraph 21. Paragraph 21 says that although the covenant does not impose any particular electoral system, the principle of one person, one vote must apply. So what do you have now? You have a general comment which may represent a general rule of international law, and you have within that general comment a very expressed statement by the Human Rights Committee saying, we are not saying you must have this or that particular democratic system.